January 24, 1943. Wolfschanz, East Prussia. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring, 49 years old, commander of the Luftwaffe and Hitler's designated successor, stands before Adolf Hitler making the most catastrophic promise of World War II. Mein Führer, I guarantee the Luftwaffe can supply Stalingrad by air. We will deliver 300 tons daily, sufficient to sustain 6th Army until relief arrives. The reality: 250,000 German soldiers encircled at Stalingrad require minimum 500 tons of supplies daily to survive. Luftwaffe transport capacity in theater: 140 Ju-52 aircraft capable of delivering maximum 200 tons per day under ideal conditions. Soviet air defenses, winter weather, and inadequate airfields make even this impossible. Over next 72 days, Luftwaffe managers average 94 tons daily, less than one-third of Göring's guarantee, insufficient to prevent starvation and ammunition exhaustion. February 2, 1943. 6th Army surrenders. Casualties: 147,000 German soldiers dead, 91,000 captured. This represents the fifth and most deadly of Göring's lies that cost Germany the war. Between 1940 and 1945, Göring makes 5 catastrophic promises to Hitler, each one a lie, delusion, or gross overestimation of Luftwaffe capabilities. Lie 1, May 1940. I can destroy the British Expeditionary Force at Dunkirk from the air. Result: 338,000 Allied soldiers evacuated. Lie 2, August 1940. I can defeat the RAF and achieve air superiority over Britain within 4 weeks. Result: Luftwaffe loses Battle of Britain, invasion of England cancelled. Lie 3, June 1941. Soviet Air Force will be destroyed in 2 weeks. Result: Soviets rebuild air strength, achieve superiority by 1943. Lie 4, January 1943. I can supply Stalingrad by air. Result: 6th Army starves, surrenders, Germany loses strategic initiative. Lie 5, 1943 -1945. I can defend Rye against Allied bomber offensive. Result: German cities destroyed, war production crippled, 353,000 civilians killed. Each lie builds on previous failures. Each time, Hitler believes him. Each time, Germany pays with catastrophic losses that bring defeat closer. This is the story of how one man's ego, incompetence, and chronic dishonesty cost Germany World War II. Hermann Wilhelm Göring rises to power as Hitler's most trusted deputy through combination of genuine early achievements and shameless self-promotion. World War I fighter ace, 22 confirmed victories, Paul Maridi decoration, final commander of Richthofen's legendary fighter squadron. But by 1933, Göring transforms into grotesquely obese morphine addict living in fantasy world of imagined military genius. As Reichsmarschall, rank created specifically for him, senior to all other German officers, he commands Luftwaffe comprising 1.9 million personnel, 4,000 combat aircraft by 1939. Early successors Poland and France validate his boasting. Luftwaffe dominates skies, close air support devastates enemy ground forces, terror bombing breaks civilian morale. Hitler believes Göring can deliver any promised air operation. Fatal mistake. Göring's personality combines dangerous characteristics making him catastrophically unsuited for high command. Pathological liar, consistently promises capabilities exceeding reality by 200 to 300%. Delusional optimist, interprets all intelligence favorably, dismisses contradictory evidence, silences subordinates who question his assessments. Profoundly lazy, spends more time hunting, collecting art, and hosting parties at his estate Karen Hall than managing Luftwaffe operations. Jealous of rivals, blocks competent officers like Ernst Judith and Hans Jaskonek from contradicting his promises to Hitler. Most critically, completely ignorant of logistics, industrial capacity, and modern air warfare requirements. He thinks in terms of 1918. Fighter tactics while commanding 1940 strategic air force requiring complex supply chains, fuel calculations, and production planning. This combination of lies, ignorance, and ego produces 5 catastrophic promises that Germany cannot fulfill. By 1940, Göring establishes pattern that repeats throughout war, promise spectacular results to Hitler, dismiss staff officers' warnings about impossibility, blame subordinates when inevitable failure occurs, then make even more outrageous promise to regain Hitler's favor. Hitler, lacking any understanding of air power himself, accepts Göring's assurances unquestioningly. Göring's lies shape German strategy at critical moments: Dunkirk, Battle of Britain, Eastern Front air operations, Stalingrad airlift, defense against strategic bombing. Each decision based on false promises produces strategic disaster. Yet Hitler continues trusting him until final days of war. Understanding Göring's 5 biggest lies reveals how personal character flaws and institutional dishonesty can destroy military effectiveness at highest levels of command. Lie 1. I can destroy the BEF at Dunkirk from the air May 24, 1940. Belgium-France border. British Expeditionary Force, 338,000 British, French, and Belgian troops, retreats toward Dunkirk surrounded by German army. General Feldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt, 64 years old, commanding Army Group A, prepares final ground assault to capture or destroy entire force. Then Hitler orders halt. Panzer divisions must stop 15 kilometers from Dunkirk, allowing infantry to complete encirclement. Why? Göring promises, Mein Führer, leave this to the Luftwaffe. My aircraft will destroy the enemy on the beaches. You will have victory without risking your precious tanks. Hitler Groß. May 26 to June 4. Luftwaffe launches 1,882 sorties attempting to prevent evacuation. Results: 226 Allied vessels sunk. But 338,226 soldiers. Evacuated to Britain, 90% of trapped force.
Gurinesa 40 proves mortles.
Allied fighters, particularly RAF Spitfires operating from English bases, contest German air superiority. Weather limits flying days. Luftwaffe bombs sink ships, but cannot prevent nighttime evacuations. Most critically, Göring fundamentally misunderstands difference between tactical air support and strategic interdiction of massive evacuation operation. What the Germans don't know at this moment: British Operation Dynamo employs 933 vessels including 700 civilian boats, numbers far exceeding Göring's intelligence estimates. Luftwaffe targets large destroyers and transports while small boats shuttle troops to larger vessels offshore beyond effective bombing range. Additionally, RAF Fighter Command commits entire strength, 2,739 sorties protecting evacuation, shooting down 132 German aircraft for loss of 106 British fighters. Göring's promise assumed air superiority Luftwaffe did not possess over England Channel area. First major lie established dangerous pattern: promise easy victory through air power alone, ignore logistics and enemy capabilities, fail catastrophically, then blame subordinates and weather rather than admitting overconfidence. Strategic consequence: Britain retains trained army nucleus that forms basis for eventual return to continent. 1944. If German ground forces had captured BEF as originally planned before Göring's interference, Britain loses 338,000 soldiers, including entire trained officer corps, possibly forcing negotiated peace. Lie TWO, I can defeat the RAF in 4 weeks, August 1st. 1940. Karen Hall, Göring's estate north of Berlin. Hitler approves Fall-Gelb, invasion of Britain, conditional on Luftwaffe achieving air superiority over Channel and southern England. Göring confidently declares, the Reichsmarschall guarantees RAF fighter strength will be destroyed within 4 weeks. Eagle Day begins August 13th. By September 15th, invasion can proceed. Intelligence assessment by Luftwaffe staff. RAF possesses approximately 700 fighters. Actual RAF strength, 1,032 fighters with production of 470 new aircraft monthly, Britain outproducing Germany in fighters. Göring dismisses accurate intelligence as defeatism. August 13th to September 15th, Luftwaffe launches massive daylight offensive targeting RAF airfields, radar stations, aircraft factories. Losses: 1,294 German aircraft destroyed versus 788 RAF fighters. Exchange ratio 1.6 to 1 against Luftwaffe. By September 15th, Battle of Britain Day, RAF clearly winning. Hitler postpones invasion indefinitely. Göring's 4-week guarantee becomes 4-month catastrophic failure, costing Germany air superiority permanently. 3 factors doom Göring's second big lie. First, British radar network and observer corps provide RAF early warning, allowing efficient fighter interception. Technology advantage Göring dismisses as British propaganda. Second, Luftwaffe fighters, particularly Bf-109s, possess only 20-minute combat time over England due to range limitations, making sustained air superiority impossible. Göring ignores Luftwaffe fighter commanders' repeated warnings about fuel constraints. Third, British aircraft production under Lord Beaverbrook exceeds German output. Britain produces 1,900 fighters July-October 1940 versus Germany's 1,200, meaning RAF grows stronger while Luftwaffe weakens. But Göring refuses acknowledging production disadvantage, insisting German quality trumps British quantity. September 17th. 1940. Hitler indefinitely postpones Operation Sea Lion, invasion of Britain, accepting that Göring's promise failed. Strategic consequence: Germany faces prolonged two-front war once Soviet invasion begins June 1941. Britain survives as base for eventual Allied invasion. Göring's ego-driven promises cost Germany any realistic chance of defeating Britain, ensuring eventual defeat. Lie 3. Soviet Air Force destroyed in 2 weeks, June 22nd. 1941. Operation Barbarossa begins, German invasion of Soviet Union. Göring assures Hitler, Soviet Air Force will be annihilated within 2 weeks of campaign start. Luftwaffe will achieve absolute air supremacy, allowing ground forces freedom of movement. Initial results appear validating promise. First day, Luftwaffe destroys 1,811 Soviet aircraft, 1,489 on ground, 322 in air combat. First week, 4,017 Soviet aircraft destroyed. Göring celebrates as vindication. But underlying reality exposes lie. Soviet aircraft production. 1941. Totals 15,735 fighters and bombers, 4 times German estimates. Soviets absorb initial losses and rebuild. By December 1941, Soviet Air Force operates 2,495 combat aircraft on German front. Numerical strength recovered despite catastrophic losses. By 1943, Soviet aviation achieves superiority. 8,290 Soviet aircraft versus 2,980 Luftwaffe on Eastern Front. Göring's 2-week guarantee becomes 3-year disaster culminating in German air forces swept from eastern skies. At this exact moment 250 kilometers behind German lines, Soviet aircraft factories evacuate eastward beyond Ural Mountains. 1,523 factories including aviation plants relocated to Siberia where German bombs cannot reach. This strategic depth allows Soviet Union to continue aircraft production throughout war despite losing industrial areas. Göring's intelligence completely fails understanding Soviet manufacturing capacity and strategic planning. Additionally, American and British Lend-Lease aid provide Soviets with 18,700 aircraft. 1941-1945. Supplementing domestic production. By 1944, Soviet Air Force operates 17,000 aircraft versus Luftwaffe's 2,500 Eastern Front strength, 7-to-1 numerical superiority making German air operations impossible. Göring's third major lie, Soviet Air Force easily destroyed, costs Germany air superiority on Eastern Front, directly enabling Soviet ground offensives that destroy Wehrmacht. 1943-1945. Had Göring provided realistic assessment of Soviet aviation capabilities and production, Hitler might have reconsidered invasion timing or allocated more resources to air campaign. Lie 4. I can supply Stalingrad by air, the deadliest lie November 22. 1942. Soviet Operation Uranus encircles German 6th Army at Stalingrad. 250,000 German and Romanian troops trapped in pocket 50 kilometers wide, 30 kilometers deep. General Feldmarschall Friedrich Paulus, 52 years old, commanding 6th Army, requests permission to break out before encirclement solidifies. Hitler refuses. 6th Army will hold Stalingrad. Supply by air until relief offensive breaks through. Hitler asks Göring, can the Luftwaffe supply 6th Army by air? Göring calculates requirements. 250,000 soldiers. Require minimum 500 tons daily. Food, ammunition, fuel, medical supplies. But Göring, desperate to regain Hitler's favor after previous failures, promises, Mein Führer, I personally guarantee Luftwaffe will deliver 300 tons daily, sufficient for defensive operations. Luftwaffe Chief of Staff Generaloberst Hans Jaskonek, 44 years old, protests privately, Herr Reichsmarschall, we have only 140 Ju-52 transports available. Maximum capacity 200 tons daily under perfect conditions. Soviet air defenses. Winter weather make even this impossible. Göring dismisses objections. I have given my word to the Führer. Make it happen. November 25. 1942. February 2nd. 1943. Luftwaffe attempts Stalingrad airlift. Reality versus promise. Göring promised 300 tons daily. Actual average delivery, 94 tons per day, 31% of guarantee, 19% of actual requirement. Best single day, 289 tons December 19th. Worst periods, January 1943. Multiple days 0 tons due to weather. Cumulative delivery 70 days. 6,591 tons total versus 35,000 tons required. Cost, 488 transport aircraft destroyed, 266 Ju-52s, 165 He-111s, 42 FW-200s, 9 Ju-86, 6 He-177s. Aircrew losses. 1,000 killed or missing. These irreplaceable transports and trained crews represent 50% of Luftwaffe's entire transport capacity, losses that cripple German logistics for remainder of war. Meanwhile at Stalingrad, 6th Army starves. Daily rations decline from 400 grams bread November to 100 grams January to 50 grams February. Ammunition exhausted by late January. Soldiers fight with captured Soviet weapons. Medical supplies non-existent. 15,000 wounded. Die from untreated injuries. January 31st. 1943. Paulus surrenders Southern Pocket. February 2nd. Northern Pocket surrenders. Casualties: 147,000 dead, 91,000 captured. Only 6,000 eventually return from Soviet captivity. Göring's deadliest lie costs Germany entire field army and strategic initiative on Eastern Front. Lie 5. I can defend the Reich against Allied bombers. 1942-1945. As Allied strategic bombing intensifies, Göring makes progressively desperate promises about defending German cities and industry. May 1942. After RAF's 1,000-bomber raid on Cologne destroys 13,000 buildings, this is last major raid. Luftwaffe night fighters will make such attacks impossible. Reality: RAF Bomber Command conducts 364,514 sorties. 1942-1945, dropping 955,044 tons of bombs. January 1943. After Americans begin daylight precision bombing, American bombers cannot penetrate German airspace. Our fighters will annihilate them. Reality: USAF 8th Air Force flies 340,000 sorties, dropping 623,000 tons bombs. March 1944. After RAF creates firestorm in Hamburg, killing 42,000, I guarantee Berlin will never suffer such attack. Reality: November 1943. March 1944. Battle of Berlin. RAF drops 45,000 tons on capital. Throughout 1943-1945, Göring repeatedly promises Hitler that new wonder weapons, jet fighters Me-262, rocket interceptors Me-163, will restore air superiority. Few reach operational status before war ends. 3 factors expose Göring's fifth lie as catastrophic delusion. First, production disparity. Germany produces 39,807 fighters. 1943-1945. Allies produce 158,218 fighters same period. 4:1 advantage, making numerical superiority impossible to contest. Göring consistently lies about German production capabilities, preventing Hitler from understanding hopeless situation. Second, fuel shortage. By 1944, Luftwaffe receives only 30% required aviation fuel due to Allied bombing of synthetic fuel plants and Romanian oil fields loss. Even aircraft that exist cannot fly. Göring promises fuel supplies remain adequate when reality shows catastrophic shortage. Third, pilot training collapse. 1943-1945. Luftwaffe loses 13,000 pilots killed, faster than training schools can replace. Average German fighter pilot. 1944-1945. Has 50 flight hours training versus Allied 400 hours. Göring continues claiming pilot quality superiority when reality shows disastrous decline. By 1945, teenage Luftwaffe pilots with minimal training face veteran Allied pilots in superior aircraft, resulting in massacre. Strategic bombing consequences reveal cumulative cost of Göring's lies. Civilian casualties: 353,000 German civilians killed. 800,000 wounded. By Allied bombing. 1942-1945. Urban destruction: 3.6 million. German homes destroyed, 20% of total housing stock. Industrial impact: German war production reaches peak mid-1944, despite bombing. But Allied raids force dispersion of factories, divert 900,000 workers to repair damage, consume 30% of artillery production for anti-aircraft guns, and tie down 1 million soldiers in air defense, resources desperately needed on combat fronts. Most critically, oil production. Allied bombers target synthetic fuel plants May 1944. Onward, reducing German fuel production from 316,000 tons monthly April 1944 to 17,000 tons September 1944. 95% decline. This fuel famine immobilizes Luftwaffe, grounds panzer divisions, and prevents training of pilots and tank crews. Had Göring honestly reported Luftwaffe's inability to defend Reich in 1943, Hitler might have allocated more resources to air defense, dispersed industry earlier, or even sought negotiated peace recognizing war unwinnable. Instead, Göring's lies ensure Germany fights on while cities burn and production collapses. At this exact moment in 1944-1945, multiple consequences of Göring's 5 lies converge catastrophically. Dunkirk lie allowed Britain to rebuild army that lands Normandy June 1944. Battle of Britain lie gave Britain base for bomber offensive destroying German cities. Soviet Air Force lie enabled Soviet air superiority supporting ground offensives crushing Wehrmacht. Stalingrad lie cost Germany field army and strategic reserve. Defense-of-Reich lie permitted Allied bombers to devastate German war economy. Combined effect: by 1945. Luftwaffe reduced from 4,000 combat aircraft 1939 to barely operational remnant. May 8, 1945. Luftwaffe possesses 1,600 aircraft on paper, but fuel only for handful. Göring's 5 lies transformed potentially formidable air force into hollow shell incapable of affecting war's outcome. Final accounting: Luftwaffe losses 1939-1945. Total 76,875 aircraft destroyed, 57,137 aircrew killed. These losses represent not just material waste, but strategic failure stemming directly from commander who substituted lies for competent leadership. The immediate consequence of Göring's lies extends beyond military defeat to moral and institutional collapse. April 20th, 1945. Hermann Göring's 52nd birthday. Soviet forces approach Berlin from east, Americans and British from west. Göring evacuates Berlin heading south toward Bavaria with convoy of looted art treasures. April 23rd. 1945. Göring sends telegram to Hitler, still in Berlin bunker, suggesting he assume leadership since Führer trapped in capital. Hitler, enraged by what he perceives as betrayal, strips Göring of all rank and authority, expels him from Nazi Party, orders his arrest. May 8, 1945. Göring surrenders to American forces. October 1946. Nuremberg trial finds him guilty of war crimes, crimes against peace, crimes against humanity. Sentenced to death by hanging. October 15th. 1946. Night before execution, Göring commits suicide by cyanide capsule, Final act of cowardice from man whose lies cost Germany the war and millions of lives. If Göring had provided honest assessments instead of lies, alternative scenarios emerge across 5 critical decisions. Scenario 1: Dunkirk. If Göring admitted Luftwaffe could not prevent evacuation and German ground forces had continued assault May 24, 1940. Probability 70 to 80% of capturing entire BEF, 338,000 prisoners. Britain potentially forced to seek peace terms lacking trained army. Scenario 2: Battle of Britain. If Göring honestly reported RAF strength and British aircraft production exceeding German, Hitler might have postponed or cancelled invasion attempt, avoiding 1,294 aircraft losses. Resources instead directed to Mediterranean or preparing Eastern Front campaign. Scenario 3: Soviet Air War. If Göring accurately assessed Soviet aviation production capacity 15,735 aircraft annually, German planning might have allocated more resources to Eastern Front air superiority campaign or reconsidered invasion timing. Scenario 4: Stalingrad. If Göring refused promising air supply or honestly stated maximum 94-ton daily capacity, Hitler faced choice: authorize breakout November 1942, potentially saving 200,000 troops, or accept 6th Army loss earlier while intact. Either option superior to 70-day slow death and loss of irreplaceable transport aircraft. Scenario 5: Strategic bombing defense. If Göring admitted 1943 that defending Reich impossible given Allied numerical superiority and provided realistic assessments of fuel shortages and production gaps, Hitler might have negotiated peace mid-1943, when German military still possessed significant strength. Instead, lies ensured Germany fought on until total destruction. Historical consensus: Göring's dishonesty cost Germany any chance of achieving negotiated peace from position of relative strength. 1942-1943. His lies trapped Hitler in strategic delusions, preventing realistic assessment of Germany's deteriorating position. By time truth became undeniable. 1945. Only unconditional surrender remained possible. The tragedy: had one man possessed integrity to speak truth rather than feed dictators' fantasies, millions of lives, German and Allied, might have been saved through earlier war termination. Remember May 1940, when Göring promised he could destroy the BEF at Dunkirk from the air, and 338,000 Allied soldiers escaped to fight another day. Remember August 1940, when he guaranteed RAF destruction in 4 weeks, and lost Battle of Britain, cancelling invasion of England. Remember June 1941, when he assured Hitler's Soviet Air Force would be annihilated in 2 weeks, and by 1943, Soviets achieved air superiority that never relinquished. Remember January 1943, when he personally guaranteed supplying Stalingrad by air with 300 tons daily, and delivered 94 tons average, watching 147,000 German soldiers die while 488 irreplaceable transport aircraft were destroyed. Remember 1943-1945, when he repeatedly promised defending Reich against Allied bombers, while 353,000 German civilians died and German cities burned. 5 lies. 5 catastrophic failures. Each building on previous dishonesty. Each preventing Hitler from understanding reality until too late. This is how Hermann Göring's ego, incompetence, and pathological dishonesty cost Germany World War II. The statistics quantify cost of institutional lying at highest command levels. Göring's 5 lies directly caused 338,000 enemy troops escaped at Dunkirk, forming nucleus of army that returns. 1944. 1,294 German aircraft lost Battle of Britain preventing invasion of England. 76,875 total Luftwaffe aircraft destroyed. 1939-1945, including 488 transports at Stalingrad. 147,000 German soldiers dead at Stalingrad plus 91,000 captured due to failed airlift promise. 353,000 German civilians killed by Allied strategic bombing Göring promised to prevent. 57,137 Luftwaffe aircrew killed. Irreplaceable trained personnel. Beyond material losses, Göring's lies produced strategic consequences. Britain survived as base for Allied operations. Soviet Union achieved air superiority enabling ground offensives. Germany lost Stalingrad and strategic initiative Eastern Front. German war production crippled by bombing Göring promised to stop. Ultimately, Germany forced to fight until total destruction rather than negotiating peace from position of strength when opportunity existed. 1942-1943. Historian Richard Overy writes, Göring's greatest crime was not his lies themselves, but preventing Hitler from understanding Germany's true position, thereby prolonging war years beyond any rational hope of victory. Today, military institutions worldwide study Göring's lies as cautionary tale about dangers of yes-men cultures and commanders who tell superiors what they want to hear rather than truth. Modern military doctrine emphasizes brutal honesty in assessment. Better to deliver bad news early when options exist than comfortable lies leading to catastrophe. The principle, institutional dishonesty compounds. First lie requires second to cover failure, second requires third, until entire command structure operates in fantasy divorced from reality. Göring exemplifies this perfectly. Each broken promise required bigger promise to regain Hitler's confidence, creating spiral of ever more impossible guarantees that destroyed Luftwaffe's effectiveness. His legacy, military incompetence combined with pathological dishonesty produces disasters far exceeding simple tactical defeats. 5 lies. 5 catastrophic strategic failures. One man's ego and dishonesty helping ensure Germany's total defeat. The Reichsmarschall who promised everything delivered nothing except destruction, and demonstrated how lies at the highest levels of command cost not just battles, but entire wars.